Welcome to the opening event of our conference at the event of 200 years of Wissenschaftliche Judentums here at the Cymbalista Center in Tel Aviv. I'm Irene Auben-David, the director of the Baeck Institute Jerusalem, and I'm very happy to see all of you. And my task this afternoon is to introduce our speakers for the round of the greetings. And the first one will be Professor Shmuel Feiner, the president of the Baeck Institute Jerusalem.
אחר צהריים טובים. 200 years ago, a major cultural revolution took place in Berlin. A handful of young Jewish students changed forever the way Judaism and Jewish people is described and understood. Science and the emerging of awareness of time as a dynamic factor dramatically challenge the traditional pattern of Limud Torah. And modern, mainly secular narratives were introduced and challenged the religious meaning of Jewish history. So inspired by their achievement, but also critical, we, the contemporary scholars and students of Jewish studies, are going in this conference to pay tribute to our founding fathers. We found it important and significant to celebrate this revolution and to dedicate an international academic event to discuss the origins of Jewish studies, to investigate previous scholars and trends, but also to suggest revisions and to look forward to the future of Jewish studies, especially today when we are so much aware of the general crisis in the humanities. So the project of the founding fathers was enormous and ambitious. They wanted to know everything, to document the literature, to publish manuscripts, to write comprehensive volumes of history, and to follow the developments of ideas. They also believed in the new concept of pure objectivity. One of the most important founding fathers, Immanuel Wolf, the young student of philosophy at the Berlin University, insisted in a programmatic article on the concept of Science of Judaism that it treats the object of study in and for itself, for its own sake, and not for any special purpose or defined intention. It begins without any preconceived opinion and is not concerned with the final result. Its aim is neither to put its object in a favorable nor in unfavorable light in relation to prevailing views, but to show it as it is. As it is. That was the vision. But other members of this first group of modern scholars, among them the prominent Leopold Zunz, admitted at the very beginning that the new project of Jewish studies is not isolated and disconnected from the burning questions and dilemmas which occupied the life and mind of the Jewish new generation of early 19th century Germany. It is all about our own time, declared Zunz exactly 200 years ago. It is about ourselves, our identity as Jews, our problems. In his 1818 path-breaking article, Something on the Rabbinical Literature, he said the following: precisely because Jews in our times, limiting our attention to the Jews of Germany, are seized upon German language and German Bildung with such earnestness, and are thus, perhaps unwittingly, carrying the Neo-Hebraic literature to its grave, science steps in, demanding an account of what has already been sealed away. The development of our science in a grand style is a duty, one whose weight increases because of the fact that the complex problem of the fate of Jews may derive a solution, if only in part, from this science, said by Zunz. So Jewish studies as a solution to the Jewish problem, at least in early 19th century Germany. So despite Wolf's statement, for the founding fathers, the engagement with the past was for the purpose of the present and the future. They believed that Jewish studies could help solving the Jewish question in Europe. The past for them was, as the title of our conference indicates, a usable past, And this was actually the trigger for our conference. And this is also the challenge in the recent years of the Leo Baeck Institute, the initiator of this conference. We consider it one of our major projects on the way to fulfill the new mission of this institute, wishing to contribute to the global academic community in Jewish studies, but also to make an impact on the Israeli culture. The founding fathers of the institute were already preoccupied with the question of its mission, purpose, and meaning. Aware of the challenge of a usable past, they were a group of eminent German-speaking intellectuals, Zionists involved in building an infrastructure for research and culture in the young state of Israel, but who also felt the group had its own special mission. In the 1950s, they were greatly troubled by the thought, almost like Zunz, but for entirely different reasons, that the history and modern culture of German Jewry would be neglected and forgotten. Hence, they founded an institute that would operate according to an orderly work plan for methodical research and publication. So, this is a very special gathering here in Tel Aviv, and I would like to welcome you all and thank you for coming. Over 40 active participants arrived from Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, Belgium, America, and Israel. It would be impossible to invite you all without the generous help and subsidy by the various institutions who joined forces with us, and we are very grateful for their kind contribution. The Historic Society of Israel, I should apologize by the name of Professor Miriel Feldon, who couldn't make it today, but as I'm also a member of the board, I can represent also the Historic Society of Israel, who is a part of this conference. The Institute for the History of German Jews in Hamburg, the Martin Buber Chair in Frankfurt University, the Institute of Jewish Studies at the University of Antwerp, and the Thyssen Foundation. On behalf of all of us, I would like to thank Professor Dan Laor, who's going to speak after me, a member of the LBI board, and the head of the Cymbalista Jewish Heritage Center at the Tel Aviv University, for the kind hospitality and for the invitation to have this opening day here. And special thanks to the academic organizing committee, to the dedicated team at the Jerusalem LBI, led by Dr. Irene Aud Ben David, and above all, to our friend and colleague, Dr. Rachel Freudenthal-Livne, who was the first to come forward with the idea and concept of this conference and was the driving force behind it. So, toda rabba Rachel. Thank you very, very much. And I'm looking forward to a stimulating and meaningful discussion and presentations today in Tel Aviv and in the next 2 days in Jerusalem. Be'atzlacha.
For the next greetings, I'm inviting Professor Dan Laor, the director of the Cymbalista Jewish Heritage Center here in Tel Aviv.
Members of the Presidium, our dear guests from Israel and abroad, ladies and gentlemen. May I get this program? In recent days, while making final preparations for this conference, I found myself time and again holding in my hands its printed program, and while doing so, my eyes were drawn again and again to the striking portrait of Leopold Zunz, which was painted by the distinguished German painter Gustav Heidenreich in 1843. Zunz was then 49 years old, by now a well-known figure in the field of Chochmat Israel, Wissenschaft des Judentums, which was very much his own invention. Just think for a moment about this outstanding person who grew up in poor conditions and managed to be one of the first and most excellent Jewish graduates both in law and philosophy at the universities of Berlin and Halle. By the age of 26, he became the founder of the Verein für Kultur und Wissenschaft der Juden. It was in the year 1819, an association led by 3 young scholars who wished to bring Jews close to German culture and at the same time to reshape Jewish identity by overcoming the gap between religious and secular education. The establishing of a historical and scientific approach to the study of Judaism seemed to be the right way to achieve these goals. The use of the term Wissenschaft in this context was by itself revolutionary, as it represented almost metaphorically the great passion of the founding fathers of this association for making a totally new start in the approach and treatment of Jewish learning. From then on, it was up to Zunz to implement this vision through his innovative scientific research, his work as a teacher, and his wide-range activities as a public figure. When he passed away in 1886, Wissenschaft des Judentums was a fait accompli in Jewish life and letters, in Germany as well as in other countries. 200 years after this initiative was taken by Zunz and his friends, the Leo Baeck Jerusalem Institute, together with other partners, have called for an international gathering to discuss various aspects of this historical, scholarly, and educational phenomenon which has been so meaningful to Jewish life in the modern age. It is my honor and pleasure, as the head of the Cymbalista Center at Tel Aviv University, to host the opening sessions of this conference, and as said before, the other 2 days will take place at the Leo Baeck Institution in Jerusalem. We are fortunate to have with us both veteran scholars and young scholars who come from 5 different countries: Israel, Germany, the US, Spain, Holland, and Belgium. Each of them will probably come up with the challenging ideas about the history and ideology of Jewish study in the course of the last 2 centuries, as well as of its state of affair nowadays, an issue which is of a critical importance, at least in the Israeli context, and the remarks made by Shmuel Feiner were very much directed to this issue. Before I turn the microphone to Vivian Liska, I would like, by your permission, to share with you an email message which I received on February 6th from Mr. Norbert Cymbalista, the philanthropist and founder of the Cymbalista Jewish Heritage Center, who resides in Geneva. Mr. Cymbalista had just received the final version of the program to which I referred before, and this was his immediate response. I quote, "Dear Dan, the name Leo Baeck brings back many memories. It was in 1934 that Baeck came to Worms, my hometown, for the commemoration of the 900-year festivities of the Worms Synagogue, 1 year after Hindenburg nominated Hitler as Chancellor of Germany. We assembled in the courtyard of my parents' building, Siegfriedstraße 24, and marched to the synagogue. As an 8-year-old boy, Mr. Cymbalista was born 1926, I was walking next to Baeck, and we had an interesting conversation. What is remarkable is the fact that this major event was in no way mentioned by the German media. I still remember the astonishment of the Worms passers-by who looked incredulously that a certain number of Jews had the guts to march, led by the Worms Rabbi Dr. Holzer and Rabbi Baeck, in the streets of Worms. I wish you a lot of success, as ever, Norbert. End of quote. And it is up to me now to join Mr. Cymbalista and to wish you all a lot of success in this conference for which we have waited so long. Thank you very much.
And the final speaker in this round of greetings is Professor Vivian Liska. She is the director of the Institute for Jewish Studies at the University of Antwerp.
It is a very special pleasure and honor to address to you a few words of welcome, and first of all, warm thanks to Shmuel Feiner, to Irene Auer-Ben-David, and to Rachel Freudenthal for inviting me to participate in the organization of this conference. On behalf of my institute, the Institute of Jewish Studies at the University of Antwerp, I also want to thank the Flemish Ministry of Education along with my university for giving me the freedom to support events abroad. I want to take this opportunity to express my appreciation and gratitude to the Leo Baeck Institute for providing a role model and source of inspiration for so many centers of Jewish studies, and an intellectual home to the many scholars from all over the world, to all those interested in German Jewish studies, all those insiders and outsiders, residents, visitors, guests, all the committed, nostalgic, virtual Germans and not quite Germans, those Israelis by choice, by belonging, by destiny, affinity, or wishful, as well as critical thinking. Like all those scholars situated somewhere on the multiplicity of borders between German Jewish studies and other disciplines, history, philosophy, literature, sociology, cultural studies, you name it, I am immensely benefiting from activities, events, workshops, conferences, lectures, book presentations, and more organized by the Jerusalem Leo Baeck Institute, the perfect place to celebrate but also to reflect on and interrogate the past, present, and future of Jewish studies. The variety of what I just listed stands in wonderful contrast to the seeming and only seeming narrowness of an institute devoted primarily to German Jewish culture. But this is precisely why thinking about Jewish studies, its place in Israel and the world, its time and all times and the future is at home here. Not only because of the German roots of Jewish studies in Wissenschaftliche Judentums, but because these origins and its history have something paradigmatic for other circumstances and situations, not only beyond the study of German Jewish culture, but maybe for inter, cross, and trans-cultural situations of so many places and times. This is particularly true today when the humanities are facing new difficulties and when their relevance, particularly in conflict zones and areas where the peaceful and mutually enriching interaction of different cultures, religions, and traditions is of paramount importance. The conference here will probe these internal and external relations, their history, their possibilities, and challenges. And I just want to recall a moment a month ago here in Tel Aviv when a colleague asked me here if I would mind participating in a meeting before an event organized here for my book. And I said, no problem. And I walked in, and there were students, mainly graduate students and postdocs of very mixed origins and interests, among them a majority of Palestinian students and this group was organized primarily to encourage greater participation of advanced Palestinian students. And he introduced me, and I did not know that this would be the case, saying Vivian Liska will give a talk about the relevance of the German-Jewish situation for the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. So even if I had to make it up ad hoc, I thought that it was a relevant moment to discuss the importance of German Jewish studies as a paradigm for other situations. So here the conference will indeed probe such situations, the history, the possibilities and challenges. A warm welcome and my best wishes for an enjoyable and inspiring conference. Thank you.